Good morning. Why, yes, I am on my third cup of coffee. Okay. Wanted to get this shot real quick because I got shit to do today. I got a horse to take care of, and I run a film festival. I run the Con Carolina Short Film Festival, and I got to get with Bill Mulligan today on handing out some awards. So, if any of you watching got an email saying, hey, your film was selected, haven't doled out the awards yet. So that's still up in the air. So, yes, my cup does say number one, Dad, fight me. Anybody who's been following me for any amount of time or knows me can tell you right away that I am a Friday the 13th nut, okay? Anything and everything Friday the 13th. Hands down, favorite franchise. And yes, I'm a big Lord of the Rings fan. Yes, I'm a big Jurassic Park and Harry Potter fan. But grew up on Friday the 13th. There's just a lot of history there for me. So everyone knows about the lawsuit going on. If you don't, just a quick recap. So when a writer sells his rights off for a film, after 35 years, the law says that he can reclaim those rights. So 1980, Friday the 13th came out, written by Victor Miller, produced by Sean Cunningham, and Horror Inc. 35 years, Victor fills out the paperwork, sends it to Sean, and Horror Inc. tells him to go fuck himself. Big lawsuit, Victor wins. Horror Inc. appeals. And here we are. No films, no content added to the game anymore. The game is what it is, which is, for what it is, it's fine. I enjoy the game. But the fan community has really stepped up, and we're getting just an ungodly amount of Friday the 13th fan films. And one in particular that stood out, that's gotten a lot of hype, is Friday the 13th Vengeance. So, I gave it a look, and I really enjoyed Never Hike Alone. To me, that is still the definitive Friday the 13th fan film. If you've not watched Never Hike Alone, you need to watch that, like, right now, and then come back to this video. Womp Stomp Films. It's awesome. So Friday the 13th Vengeance has a pretty interesting lineup. They had C.J. Graham back, not playing Jason, which in a way is unfortunate. I would have liked to see C.J. don the mask again. He hasn't done it since part 6. Kane Hodder was part 7. See, it's morning. I need a fourth cup of coffee. We had Steve Dash, who was one of the people that played Jason in part 2. Harry Manfredini composed the score for the film. A guy named Jason Brooks played Jason Voorhees. He actually did an excellent job. So the film retcons parts 7 and on. And I'll get to that, because there's a little nuance that they do in the film, kind of a little bone, but it officially retcons those. So it picks up years after part 6. Okay? Tommy 1, he dropped Jason's ass off in the bottom of the lake, weighed him down with a boulder. So this group goes out to camp on the beach at Camp Crystal Lake, and for no fucking reason whatsoever, Jason picks up his rock and marches his happy ass out of the lake and kills the shit out of everybody except one girl, who runs back to Forest Green, the community, and says that all of her friends are dead. And Tommy Jarvis goes missing. So we meet his daughter Angelica, who has decided to go look for him, leaving her little sister at home, because that always works out. Sis ends up following. We also have competing tour guide groups going on, where they're doing like haunted tours of Camp Blood, and so, fodder for Jason. Jason wipes out an entire group of prisoners. But I mean, it's a Friday the 13th film, so if you're walking in expecting like this landmark, memorable, life altering film, you're watching a Friday the 13th film for the wrong reason. That's not the film, that's you. But we do get something interesting. And I really have to hand it to the writers on this. We meet Elias Voorhees, Jason's dad, who was introduced in the novelization of Part 6. And they kind of took that little tidbit from the novelization of Part 6 and rolled. So, Elias is Jason's father, and he got the news that Jason had drowned back in the day. And we find out that the two counselors that were supposed to be watching him are Steve Dash's character, the sheriff, and Tommy Jarvis's grandmother. Oh, I'm sorry, Tommy Jarvis's mother, Angie's grandmother. So, yeah, that's a turn of events. They also allude to the possibility that in Part 1, in the original Camp Blood Killings, it wasn't just Pamela Voorhees. The opening scene where the two counselors get busted making out about to screw in the attic of the cabin and they get killed off, this film says that it was Elias who did it. So I found that really interesting, and they shot for shot replicated the original scene and did an amazing job with it. I mean, it's not perfect, okay, but if you're going in expecting that scene to be exact like it was back in the day, again, that's an unrealistic expectation. Come on. These people are not those actors, okay? So now we've got Elias and Jason killing people off in Camp Blood. So I want to start with the good things about this film. First of all, it looks great. I mean, it looks pro mainstream. It could have a theatrical run. Shot excellent, sounds great. They really didn't pull punches with the quality here. I mean, couple of times the dialogue got a little lost here and there, but it's so negligible that I couldn't even tell you what scenes. So kudos there. They did a fantastic job. At its core, it is a old school style Friday the 13th film. Complete nod to the series. And they easily could have called it like Friday the 13th Generations or some shit like that, because we actually get the descendants of some of the known characters from the previous film. We get Jenny Fields' niece or granddaughter or something like that. She was the survivor in Part 2. We get Chris Higgins's niece. She was in Higgins Haven from Part 3. She was the final girl in that film. And then Rob from Part 4. So his sister Sandra was killed off in Part 2 by Jason. So Rob shows up in Part 4 to hunt him down after his body vanished from the morgue. I mean, it's really cool to see, you know, these characters show up to help out the Jarvises. A lot of classic style kills. I mean, obviously there are kills that they couldn't just copy, but they're so damn close. Just nods to the fan base. So, you know, I can't say that I didn't enjoy this film. I really did. So, let's get to the negatives, because it is not a perfect film. And this is Fail Flicks, and generally if your ass shows up here, I either really liked it or really didn't. So it's a rarity that I've got, you know, both sides equally of the spectrum. So the start off of this is the biggest thing that stood out to me was the plot holes. Why did Jason come back? What was his reasoning? What was the instigating factor for him to return? Okay. Part 2, End of the movie, they didn't really show whether or not they killed him off. Part 3, end of the movie, she put an axe in his face, but I mean, if she didn't kill the brain necessarily, then of course he's going to come back in part 4. He's nuts. Part 4, they definitively killed him. Part 6, his ass was struck by lightning. Part 7, Tina resurrects him from the lake thinking that he's her father by accident. Part 8, he's electrocuted when a boat anchor snags the main power line going into the camp. But then we get into the New Line films, which I usually refer to as the misadventures of Jason Voorhees, and they just give no fucking reason whatsoever. And that's kind of the direction this film went. They went with Deadite Jason, which was established in Part 9. I would have liked to have seen a reason that Jason just up and decides, I'm going to pick up this big damn rock and walk out of the lake and start killing people. No reason. I feel like Elias Voorhees, a lot that could have been done with that character was left on the table. And that's a double-edged sword. Okay? So Elias Voorhees is super interesting. The downside to including Elias in the capacity that they did is it shows that you can't have both and have a really satisfying story to tell. I mean, you could honestly say that this film leaves it wide open for a sequel, if you will. But the level that they're trying to work with Elias, and the movie either needed to be 100% focused on Elias, with Jason just kind of snot-rocketed in here and there, like in flashbacks or something, or this needed to be a 3-hour-long Friday the 13th film. I am a hardcore Friday the 13th fan. I even like the fucking remake. I like the NES game. I don't want to sit through a 3-hour-long Friday the 13th film. It's not going to happen. So I feel like the ball was kind of dropped there. Maybe they'll do a sequel and elaborate a little more. I'd like to see that. And then there were way too many characters. The body count in this film was just absolutely unreal, which is fine, but the more characters you have, the more time you're spending on the film. A lot could be shaved off here. And I mean, in shaving that, you're going to lose some kill effects, but I didn't need the drunk guy. He didn't really matter to me. I didn't need the rival groups. The group that it's more centered around would have been just fine. The hunters being thrown in was a super duper nod to part 6, and I get it. Leave those there. The little sister character was just, she served absolutely no purpose whatsoever. Even though it retcons 7-8, it does nod to them. So we have Dr. Cruz, the lady who Tommy's seeing. That's a total nod to Dr. Cruz in part 7. Same role, except Tommy doesn't have psychic powers. And then they do mention Jason being spotted in Manhattan. Then abruptly, Angelica says, nope, that never happened. So there are nods to them, but at its core, this does retcon everything after part 6. So ultimately, if you're looking for a good, fun, high quality Friday the 13th film, and you've already blown through Never Hike Alone so many times you've memorized it, check out Vengeance. You'll have a good time with it. It's not Landmark. It's not. There are some writing things, and I mean, some film reviewers will tell you, oh, I'm not going to rewrite your movie. I'm an author. I will totally fucking rewrite your movie. I mean, but ultimately, it's a good time. You can stream it for free on YouTube. When they start, I think they're trying to do physical media or find a way to do physical media. If they do, you should definitely contribute to that, help these guys out. I think they do have it in them to do another one. Unfortunately, we lost Steve Dash. This was his final film. For all its flaws, I think he went out with a bang. This is a good one to go out on if you're involved with the franchise. So that being said, this is not the only Friday the 13th fan film that I've watched before this review. There's another one. It's not so favorable, but yeah, Friday the 13th Vengeance. Check it out on YouTube. It is definitely worth the watch, and make sure you watch it with the lights off. Cheers.